Number sub 1, we have the standing issue of the board's voted policies and the inconsistency with the town's charter and or Mass General Law. We've had an issue now that's gone, again, a number of months where the board voted policies in draft. I offered comment. My comments were not considered in the final vote of the board, and I then, sensing an opening in one of Selectman Blair's comments about an opinion from council, sought and did receive an opinion from council on the policies as they relate to the law and the charter, and presented that letter to the board, and it's been hanging there ever since, with the comment from the chair each time I've brought it up or attempted to, that we needed to keep it on hold until Mr. Blair was back. Mr. Blair is back, so I think it's ripe to have a discussion with the board about your policies and town council's letter as relates to your policies. So I guess the big question is, they are your policies, and you have an absolute right, I don't think anyone's going to debate that, to have your own policies. It puts me in a box because I'm not going to be able to follow several of the policies. And I guess I just need to say publicly that I'll do as good a job as I can trying to live up against what you put on paper, but the charter, which is bigger than your policies, as Mr. Zubkowski has repeatedly said, places an obligation on me to uphold the law, to uphold the charter, to uphold the bylaws, all of which are superior to your policies. If there's a conflict, I'm going with the charter, the bylaw, and then if still standing, I can get to your policies, but I'm not going to break these two just because you vote this one.
Okay, where are we going with this now?
I have one question, not a question, but a statement on the mail. Isn't there, and I didn't bring the policy, but isn't there like a 72-hour response to a complaint or to any, right, to a complaint in our policies, Jim? I don't know it.
Yes, there is.
So I guess I'm concerned because I come in a few times a week. Go ahead, look it up, Bob, because you get the Bible with you.
I
guess my concern is if our private mail sits, we're now going to be in our own violation of saying we have 72 hours to respond.
Do you have that, Mr. Crowler, that reference that she's talking about, that 72 hours, where it might be?
I believe it's actually a policy the board directed me to implement on my level a little over a year ago. So if a piece of mail comes in, there was a concern. In fact, it was
Selectmen's policy of a previous board that they asked you to carry out.
Actually, I think it was they directed me to have my own policy.
Is
so
that,
I think it may vest in my policies, but it went to the Joe Snow issue when Joe had a complaint. The board, heard from Mr. Snow that it wasn't being addressed or handled, so there was a request to put a time frame around when people would get responses. So I believe it's at our administrative level, Bob.
Okay, so it's not in the selectmen's policies, because I have the selectmen's policies here. So what you're referring to, Beth, isn't in our policies. I mean, there may be some other.
Okay. But the connection, I guess, would be if your mail sits and there's a requirement for action that I'm held responsible for because a board has directed me to respond within 72 hours, but I can't see what's in that confidential file over there, I get put on the hook there too.
Well, I want to keep you off the hook. I guess if it's an order, I would make a motion that we relieve Mr. Carter of that 72-hour requirement and do it as soon as possible. 72 hours. That would be my motion.
Okay, that's for action on the complaint.
Right.
Okay, so state your motion again, please.
You would have to say that, wouldn't you? I guess I'd make a motion that, and I haven't seen this policy that he's referring to, but that policy that requires the town manager to deal with a complaint in 72 hours be rescinded, and that the town manager handle the complaints as soon as possible, as feasible.
Okay. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Not doing too well tonight with seconds. Okay. All right.
Let me try my hand at it. Okay. Huh? Let me try my hand at it. So why are we defining how many hours he has to handle anything? Right. It's his job. We're going to sit here and figure out a formula for everything he has to do. I suggest we get rid of the formula for the amount of hours and just simply not have a.
That was my motion.
Well, I'll bet mine's going to pass.
It will, because
I move that we not place any restrictions or any directions on the town manager with reference to responding to complaints.
Second.
Okay. At least we got a second.
And I'll see if we can get it passed.
Okay. Now, you have heard Mr. Blair's motion about not placing any restrictions on the town manager in resolving complaints. Is that the motion?
That's the motion.
Everybody understand that? There's a second. Are there any questions? Are there any questions?
Yes, question, comment, I'm not sure which way to take it, but do you realize, like Jim said, it was instituted a little over a year ago, there's a reason behind it. Okay, we were slow in responding. Jim agreed 72 hours, he would be able to do a written, the person has to come in with a written complaint. I'm trying to memorize Jim's policies here. And the reason why we instituted it, because of Mr. Snow, because something fell, something slipped through the cracks a couple of times. And he agreed with it, and I guess we're going to go back to whenever we get to it.
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to ask you to vote. In favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Say no. The matter is passed.